Well, Mr. Smith, you seem to be greatly enveloped in your show, and you seem to have a huge audience for it.
Thank you.
But I wanted to ask something about Super 8.
Yeah, Super 8, man. We go back a ways. I bought them about a year, 2 years ago, and one of the fastest purchases I ever made, and been connected ever since.
Right. You do realize you just lied. My information here says that you stole him. Our sources just don't seem to add up. Can you tell me about what you just said? Perhaps give me a correct answer. We have really good sources. What are you doing?
I'm silently judging you. Time's up.
That's all the time you're gonna give me?
I give you my time, bitch.
Welcome back to the Overtly Critical Film Show. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Corwin.
And this week we did Magnolia, directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, and starring Tom Cruise, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Julianne Moore,
Fucking everyone.
Philip Baker Hall, John C. Reilly, everybody in Hollywood.
Yeah, every single person. William H. Macy,
Right.
your dad, everyone.
So, a little bit of history. I had not seen this movie before, so we both went in blind this time. But I remember, so I watched a YouTube video from a channel, Cinema for Cynics. They don't make videos anymore. But he mentioned this as a great movie that you'll never want to watch again. And I kept it on my mind. And I remember in high school, I have a high school story this time.
Hey, there we go.
The poster of this movie was in my geometry classroom. Interesting enough. Maybe because it has to do with the flower, Magnolia. I don't know. But that's my history with the movie, and I hadn't seen it, and you hadn't seen it.
Yeah, and I've never seen it. Never seen a Paul Thomas Anderson movie.
I have. I saw Hard Eight. It was not great.
I was a little worried about the 3-hour runtime, but that comes in that whole thing of like a great movie you'll never want to see again. But we'll get into that in our thoughts later. On one random day in the San Fernando Valley, a dying father, a young wife, a male caretaker, a famous lost son, a police officer in love, a boy genius, an ex-boy genius, a game show host, and an estranged daughter will each become part of a dazzling multiplicity of plots, but one story.
So the story of the movie. It's a 3-hour movie. It's 3 hours and 8 minutes.
And it feels like 3 hours and 8 minutes.
Oh, yes, it does. The movie kind of sets up this concept that it's about, coincidences that are not so coincidental.
The movie didn't really feel like it played up the idea of coincidences that much to me. Like, in the plot overall, it felt a lot more like these are intertwined stories. I don't agree with, what the logline said of that this is one story, because it did not feel that way to me. It really did feel like separate stories that are all... that are shared by multiple people and sort of weave in and out of each other. But it didn't really feel like a lot of coincidences, because, I don't think it's really a coincidence that, the dying father is also the guy who is the owner of, the program that the game show is on, and, yada, yada, yada. But I did like just the way that the opening was kind of edited. It was entertaining.
In those cases, it kind of shows you, it's this crazy bunch of coincidences. And this movie kind of portrays itself as another case of that. And when you get to the ending, when it's all has to do with this big event happens to all these people that all have the same similar kind of problems when you get to the concept of the movie, I can see it a little bit.
I hadn't thought about that with the thing at the end.
Really, the movie is really about parent-child relationships. That's basically what the movie's about. You can say it's about the past even.
Yeah.
Because some people argue that it's about the past as a general term.
I don't think so.
But the movie...
I think you're on it right there.
So, not only do we have the kid who's a genius on that show and relationship with his dad, which... horrible guy. I hate that guy.
Even at the end, he doesn't, redeem himself. He's still, the... where he's you have to... you have to be nicer to me, and the dad's just go to bed. That's That's a dark part of the movie.
His dad was taking pride from his son's accomplishments. You know, he kind of used his son as like, oh, that's mine. You know, like
It's
an
not even so much
ownership
the
thing.
accomplishments. It's more of like he's using his son to get money because he wants the money from like
That's true.
the award, and that ties into William H. Macy, whose parents took his money that
Yeah.
he was successful from his big win on the show,
Yes.
and now he just works like a dead end job, and they're using his clout. The only reason he can work there is because they're using his clout to sell their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You get, of course, the dying father, who he's got the relationship with his son.
We also have the dad who hosts the show, relationship with his daughter, Claudia.
That's a messed up one.
So, you know, even though there are some relationships in the movie that aren't parent-child, pretty much everybody in the movie is affected by something like that. Like the only loose cannons there would be Julianne Moore's
policeman as
character
well.
and the cop.
He doesn't really have like he's the most kind of disconnected from it all, I think, because he's of course connected to Claudia's story, and then he becomes connected with William H. Macy's character, the boy genius, whatever his name was. But for the rest of it, he doesn't really do much, which is a shame because I think what's his name?
John C. Reilly.
John C. Reilly. He's a great actor, and I would love to see a little more of him. But and I loved his character.
Philip Seymour Hoffman is in the movie too. He doesn't have a big role. He's kind of like the nurse caretaker for Tom Cruise's dad, but Tom Cruise is certainly Tom Cruise in this movie.
Wow, yeah. Yeah. Just the whole respect the cock.
Tame the cunt.
Yep.
That's his thing.
It's entertaining.
Yeah.
But it's also so fucked up, and it gives you a great view of like how someone becomes like this,
Yeah.
because his father basically fucking abandoned him. He didn't really have his a female role model either because his mom fucking died.
What kind of impact does a parent really have on their kid? We see what Tom Cruise basically feeling like. You could say that his like weird like sexual frustrations are just a manifestation of losing control over his family. So he wants control of other
Exactly.
people.
And just like the lack of like he becomes almost like a father figure to all these people in the way he sort of teaches them how to get a woman, because he never had a father figure.
Yes.
Really, his dad freaking just straight up abandons him. And of course you get Claudia and her dad, which is the twist at the end where, you know, it's sort of like he doesn't. I interpret that as he doesn't really know if he did molest her, or maybe he just doesn't remember if he did. But he did. He almost certainly did. I feel like they even like show like that they zoom into like the thing on the painting, and it says I don't remember what it says. She was right or something.
Though it's like it happened or something like that.
Yeah, it's pretty overt in my opinion that they're trying to say, yeah, he molested her.
Let me get to some notes about the script, not the story. So I said long scenes, but the long scenes are really realistic. I mean, you have like scenes of like Ernie, or was it Ernie is his name, right? Like he's dying on his
Ernie.
deathbed.
Yeah.
He's trying to get out a sentence to Philip, and the shot must have been a minute and a half of him trying to get a simple sentence out, and it's like, if you've been in a hospital with somebody, that's realistic. There are shots in this movie of people sitting there thinking, and that's what it's like.
It reminded me of, you know, my grandfather passed away recently, and seeing someone that close to the end of their life. This movie captures a lot of aspects of life very accurately and very rawly.
By the way, it's Earl, not Ernie. Sorry. There's way too many people.
Is it Earl?
It's Earl.
It's Earl.
We said
Okay,
it
it's
right
an
in the-
E name.
Yeah, I suppose. An interesting thing is that the bulk of the movie takes place in a few hours, basically. And the one thing that kind of keeps you in a bookmark there is most of the movie takes place within Frank's show. The whole basically the whole movie. So I think it's got to be like a half an hour in. We're first introduced to the silhouette of him starting his show with all these people, and then the interview.
Oh,
with
like
the,
timeline
yes,
wise, yeah.
The interview with the lady is like the intermission, and that's halfway through the movie, and he just is leaving his show to go see his dad at the end of the movie. So we know all the events in this movie that we know are taken within this time. It's all within this hour or two.
And
3
another
hours.
thing this movie does is it does kind of jump back and forth in time pretty seamlessly. It's not jarring, just because
you got 8 stories to keep up with.
there were moments where I don't remember what exactly tipped me off to that this is what was happening, I think it had to do with a phone call where like they go back. It's clear that they've jumped back a little to show you now. This is at the same time this was happening. This is what's happening.
A lot of these people do have sort of arcs in the movie, and everybody goes through like problems at the same time. So, script writing thing here. The midpoint of the movie, it's like the low point for everybody. It is the low point for everybody. In the same game show, you have the host who's like he has cancer.
He has
and
a stroke, right?
he falls over. At the same time, the kid is pissing his pants. So you have like multiple things happening at the same time.
Is this where Tom Cruise also is like, really where she basically confronts him in the interview
Yes.
about like he was lying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that I hadn't paid attention because I'm not so much of a script guy. That does all happen at the same time.
That's in the middle of the movie. But in the middle as well is when Donnie, the grown-up kid genius, kind of like I didn't really know what was happening in that scene. Like he gets up and he tells everybody to screw off. That's his thing in the
I think it
movie.
was more of him from like a thematic standpoint, expressing love, which is something he didn't really get much of. He doesn't feel loved. And it's just him being like, "I love you, man." Blah, blah, blah. He plays.
I do love the parallel though between that guy and the kid that's currently facing the same problem as him.
It's very important to what I feel like the overall idea of this movie is, but I'll save that for when we get to the end and talk about our lesson we learned.
So the movie, it's pretty much a roller coaster of emotions, and one thing I'd like to say about the script in general is that because there's all these characters, the movie feels like it's a world. It doesn't feel like the narration or perspective of one person. It feels like a big thing.
There is no single POV character. There isn't even really like a character they favor more screen time to. No. You're going to connect with some characters the most.
The movie doesn't need a main character. That's kind of the point of it. Like I said, it's actually called an epic when I look it up. It's called a drama/epic.
Yeah, that's actually a good way to define it. It's like a modern real life epic.
So now we can talk about this goddamn ending.
Yeah, so if I may, the movie ends with a rain of frogs, which for those who know comes from the book of Exodus, which
during one of the tapings of the game show, it's like their stupid "Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader" /Jeopardy/Family Feud mashup. It's kind of cool actually. They even have like a music section, but it's during that they show a shot of the crowd and there's a couple signs and it's like such an insignificant thing, and I just happened to notice one of the signs says Exodus 8:2, and you noticed it as well. But then I was sitting there like, I gotta look this up. This will be funny, because I was like, oh, I'll just look up what this means.
And it's the passage from the Bible where Moses is talking about the plagues he's going to bring onto Egypt, where he's going to bring frogs down.
Well, basically it says like, if you let them go, I will bring a plague of frogs upon your land or whatever. Which, if you want to interpret the ending, letting go,
it just bugged me as a scene because, like, on one hand, I think I've heard of something like that happening in real life before, where like a hurricane or something sweeps them up and puts them into the air, but like it felt so weird and random, and I just didn't like it. I really,
you know what?
It kind of took me out of it, to be fair.
A little bit, but I'll say this:
more.
The movie was trying to set up the idea that this is never real. This is not realistic. They even make a point to say none of this is coincidence. They say it in the beginning that like this stuff is not. They're like, coincidence? No, it's not.
Oh, what's that section? Right, where he's on the phone calling the guy about like the son trying to get in touch with where the nurse is trying to get in touch with Frank, the motivational speaker cult type guy. He's like, this is the scene in the movie where you help me.
Where the long lost son finds the dad or something.
But I still I didn't like the frog part. It kind of took me out of it. It was just weird.
It catches you off guard.
It makes you laugh your ass off, especially in a scene where like a lot of heavy shit is happening.
Yeah. So
William H. Macy is stealing from is being very, taking a great risk of stealing from the shop because he thinks he's owed the money. Claudia, her mom comes and they're having a moment. The guy's about to shoot himself. The host is about to shoot himself, and then the frog hits him in the head and he misses. But I think he kind of died anyways. The son and the dad are like finally reconnecting, and not really reconnecting. That he's dying, and the son is like so angry at him and so hurt. And then it's fucking raining frogs from the sky, and it's like, what the fuck?
Because at this point, we're like 2 hours and 40 minutes in this thing. I totally forgot about this whole vignette of stories about weird coincidences in history.
Yeah, and just a sidebar, this movie feels like it should end like twice before it actually does.
And
it's a little odd.
It's a scene where I think 4 people in the movie are all driving, and I'm thinking they're going to crash into each other. Because the girl is Julianne Moore's character is in an ambulance. John C. Reilly just left his date with Claudia. Donnie's like just leaving where he robbed that place, and the host's wife
is going to go meet Claudia.
He's going to meet Claudia, and I was like, oh my god, they're going to crash into each other. And I was like, god damn it, they didn't do that.
I wasn't struck by a lot of the visuals in this movie, but the main thing I noticed is there's a recurring motif of central framing. The 2 main spots I noticed it were in the interview with Frank, where like the interviewer is asking the really piercing question about like, well, I know you lied about your father dying, your mom died, your father's still alive. What's up with that? And he's like very much like out of control in this one moment where he's trying to be very cool and in control over the moment. He's just like, he just is silent. He says, I'm silently judging you. It's like, okay, fucking 5-year-old. And then the other moment is with the kid after he runs away from the show and breaks into the library and just sits and read. He gets they center frame on him too with the bookshelf. It's a really great shot.
There's like some plants that they have, like the shot comes over and stuff.
There's more examples, but those are the 2 that stick out in my mind.
Obviously, the beginning has like old film footage. That's always cool because you know that Anderson went and shot that stuff, so that's always cool. The editing I actually wrote this. Editing is superb is a quote that I made. So there's a couple compilations in the movie. There's like 2 of them really. The opening of the movie is a whirlwind, and this does play into camera moves, which I want to get to separately.
The following shots, yeah.
But the beginning is kind of showing you all of the people that you're about to meet, and the transitions basically centering around the TV show. Again, it's like it's crazy how fast you're going, and you're meeting all these new people, and you're like, what the hell? Who's this guy? What was that guy? What's going on? The editing there is great, and then and there are some cuts throughout the movie between the stories that are also really good. And then there's one compilation in the end when Earl is giving like his final like regrets about cheating on his wife.
And which I want to talk about that later, but we'll get back to that.
Yeah, and that's and throughout that you see everybody else again, and there's a lot of continuity between the people and good editing there. And in that beginning compilation, the camera is hectic, very hectic. But
a lot of following shots throughout the movie.
Yeah. I mean, the camera works great. A bunch of zooms, a bunch of follow shots and tracking shots and things like that. One of the more interesting uses of it is when they're backstage of the game show, and they're following one person as they talk, and then another person goes away and they follow that person separately. And then all of a sudden you're going through the room, they talk to somebody else, oh, there's the kid again, then they follow him again, and you're like, that's choreography, and that's great.
They they also like using in this movie the slow zoom in when like there's a realization or when like something really important's happening, which I love. I love that as a camera move in general. It's not really a camera move, I love that as a shot where like in the interview or when in one of Earl's monologues where they just slowly zoom in on him very subtly. It's great. Really,
I like
really
to say
nice.
The camera had a personality and it had a purpose. So for the audio of the movie, I had a couple notes. There is narration in the beginning, which doesn't come back until the end of the movie. That kind of what ties it all together. Very non-conventional music in this movie. There was a lot of like score stuff, but like orchestral sounding stuff in some scenes because it's like it's like
but
drama.
It's not like big and impressive though, like Star Wars or anything.
There was a lot of diegetic, our favorite word, diegetic music. Throughout the beginning intro, there was this really weird song that they were playing, like a really upbeat kind of poppy thing in the beginning of the movie, and then
they have a moment shortly before the ending. It's before the Rain of Frogs, where they're all singing a song together that comes on the radio.
Yes,
that was another kind of weird moment, but
it was.
I thought that was one of the spots where I thought it was going to end. but it didn't.
2 times in the movie there was a character in a car. The car had a radio. You could hear the radio music and the music of the movie, and they were overlapping. 2 times I noticed that. The first one was when Donnie's driving and then he crashes into the convenience store in the beginning. But there was another time in the end where I noticed it, and I was like, that's very weird. And we can't forget the kid's rap.
I didn't see how that came back really, except for the fact I guess it's because the kid, calls the ambulance for when Linda overdoses. I think she's trying to kill herself with the drugs, but he didn't really need to have him rap to be like, I just told you who did it. That doesn't come back, and I think you could have cut that.
So when he tells Officer Jim this rap, he tells him like who killed the person that he just not busted, but he found the body. He knows who killed him, and this rap reveals it. And from what I found was that the point of that scene was not that the killer is significant. It's that cop is a failure, and he fails at everything. Mm-hmm. He loses his gun. The murderer, he has evidence right in front of him, and he brushes the kid off as just like some kid with a shitty rap. He's like, go to school.
That's fair. And also you could draw a line between it's like an adult and a child again. I still feel like it could have been cut, but because I think in my head I was paying less attention to God, what an idiot cop, and more like, oh, I wonder if that's going to come back. Who did it?
All right, now it's time to get our film facts with Super 8, ageless wonder. He's older than anybody here, and he's still kicking it. So hit us with those facts, Super 8.
Claudia was the first character created, and the other characters were branched off from her. Almost every location contains at least one picture or painting of a Magnolia. Exodus 8:2 is alluded to over 100 times throughout the movie. New Line Cinema wanted to push the film as a Tom Cruise movie, but Paul Thomas Anderson refused, saying it was an ensemble piece. He ended up designing the poster and editing the trailer himself. Jason Robards' character in the film suffers from terminal brain and lung cancer. Robards coincidentally died of lung cancer a year after the film was released. This was originally supposed to be a short and intimate film, but the more Paul Thomas Anderson worked on the characters, the more intricate it became. One of the books Stanley is reading at the library is about scientist Charles Fort, who is noted for his work expanding the boundaries of scientific research to include strange phenomena such as those featured in the film. The story of the scuba diver being dropped from an airplane is a debunked urban legend.
All right, thank you, Super 8, for those wonderful facts. Now you'll get into our favorite moments. The opening editing of the movie in which we're introduced to all the characters, I thought that the editing and the camera work was hectic and fast-paced, and it was fascinating. And it kind of, although the movie does slow down at some point, part of my brain was thinking, is the movie going to be this fast? Because I was like, this is a lot of information happening at once. This is a lot of people. But I thought it was a good opening because I thought it just showed you how complex the whole thing was. But yet it's all tied together somehow. And it's that damn TV show. It's one of those things in a movie you watch and you go, like, God, somebody had to plan all that out, and somebody had to edit all that, and it looks fantastic. And I think if you need a scene that's just a good representation of the movie, and at least the concept of the movie, it's that opening couple 5-10 minutes.
To me, my favorite scene in the movie is the montage where Earl is talking. I don't remember what he talks about.
His regret with his wife.
Right, where he's talking about regret with his wife and loving his wife. One of the things that happened is where the entire police force is searching for the missing gun. And the audio is very quiet. You can still hear it from scene to scene. But it's, to me, it just felt like this is all about pain. And for me, what I initially thought the theme of the movie was love and pain. And definitely that is part of the themes of the movie. But this entire, it's a great montage of like saying, hey, look how all this stuff is connected. It's different, but they're feeling all the same things, and we're kind of draw a circle around it with this narration, and it's just great filmmaking.
Now we're going to get into our lesson that we learned from the movie.
This movie is a great example of how you can use montage and film to create an idea, because the entire movie is a montage. So I mentioned that my favorite moment in this movie is the montage where Earl was talking about how he regrets what he did to his wife over all of the shots where people were kind of at their lowest moment. And you kept saying like compilations, and what you meant to say was montage. Because this movie to me is basically montage of the movie, and I'm not talking about 80s action schlock montage like Training, Rocky, and crap like that. I'm talking about like Sergei Eisenstein's Soviet montage. 1 + 1 = 3. You put two unrelated things together, and you find meaning from the placement of the two shots. All of these stories, I disagree with that. These stories they all connect and they're all one story, because I don't think they are. The goals of these people are different and they're resolved in different ways. But you get a greater idea from all of these stories coming together, and you see how they're similar.
My lesson from this movie, I'm going to give it a little context. It's take your time. And I mean specifically with the scenes themselves. And I mentioned earlier the long shots. This movie is very primordial and emotional. In a way that, I'm a sucker for the kind of shit that, it's emotional on like a very, not like a crying level, but like a very deep level. And this movie does that because it gives the actors room to breathe, and it lets them take their time. And I mentioned there's that scene of Earl on his deathbed trying to get out a sentence, and you can even barely hear half of the words he does say, but it's a scene between him and Philip, and it takes like minutes. Paul Thomas Anderson is in this one shot for like a minute and a half, must be. You have the scene of Claudia yelling at her dad, and that goes on for like 40 seconds, just one shot of her yelling. And Tom Cruise, the scene of him crying, that lasts like a minute too. When you cry, you are going to cry for a minute and a half. If you're yelling at somebody, you're gonna yell at them 10 times. Like these things take a long time, and that's why the movie's 3 hours. Because it takes its time with it. It's not going to cut away and cut things short. You don't get over something that fast. And the movie kind of holds on emotions, and it kind of weighs you down. So now we get to do some funny notes. This week, I guess Super 8 is doing funny notes because he wants to get himself into everything.
Come on, Super 8. Stay in your lane.
We're going to let him have it this week.
Hi, welcome to Funny Notes. We're doing something different this week. So, Dan really felt like he wanted to do funny notes. Sorry, my mask's on. So Dan really thought he really wanted to do funny notes, or Super 8. But after that first debacle, thank you for the light, that'll never happen again. Now we're doing something different this week. Welcome to a special episode of Funny Notes I like to call Funny Notes Versus. So, you wrote funny notes? I wrote funny notes. So my title of my funny notes is called Creamy, Pink, and Waxy.
God damn it, what the fuck does that mean?
That is the definition of Magnolia.
Greenberry Hill isn't green.
Yeah, that's accurate. It's black and white. My next fact. Whoa!
I didn't know the gun was loaded. Must have been on the set of Rust. Get owned.
On the set of Rust. Damn. Next one. Dumb believes in God.
1877. Tame her. Tap into her panties.
I want to tap right in.
Frank Drebin's driving skills.
Ah! Oh, hey, it's the quiz kid. Oh,
Evil Tom Cruise be like, yes, I respect women's bodies and I'm classy while having sex.
Black versus cop. Who wins?
Oh my god. Kid says N-word. Sad day for children. Kids get smart from parental abuse.
Yeah. Furry for all the out there.
Use of the term lady is offensive to women of third gender.
I understand. Boy, Ryan is.
What are you trying to say?
I just said boy, and then I was like, you know what? I needs a little oomph. So Ryan is.
To be the smartest, you have to have the lamest haircut.
I agree. That's why I'm the smartest. I have TV solitaire. I was impressed by that. There's solitaire on a nice TV in the bar.
Massive garlic tie. I'm sorry. To me at the time, that was actually kind of funny.
And I'll hit you back because I also have that. A gift of so much garlic. Hot guy bar, hot man, then braces ugly laugh.
Ryan kind of looks like Tom Cruise. You did
Well, he doesn't
say
have
that.
long hair that like goes down here, and then he's like, respect the Actually, no, he does hate women, though. Help, Marcy, help, 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 Marcy, Marcy. There was just so much help in Marcy, and I was like, what the hell? Movie reference in movie? Director.
The frogs can't hurt you if you're atheist.
I like that. It's time for a speed round where I'm busting out a bunch of funny notes at once. Cop perv, cop perv. Gold digger turns for old men. Why do I relate to Cocaine Girl? This one is, I do have TMJ.
Why do you?
I don't know if you hear any of that, but I do have TMJ, so.
Quality ambulance service here in Biden's America.
All right, time to knock out the rest of my notes. Technically, I have one,
Yeah, I said my piece.
but we're just going to keep going. Bedman's only 65, too old, hasn't put his cream on yet. How the is everyone listening to the same song? There's just there's no.
Oh my God.
Where's the? God says no to suicide. Wish I could have seen the dog drugged dance. I wanted the dog to do like a druggy dance. All right, this has been Funny Notes versus. It fell off a little bit. This was more like interesting.
Yeah, and the point system over there, Mr. Point Taker, seems that Joey has beaten me. Well, this has been the Overtly Funny Notes film. And
What?
Want to take it away?
This has been Funny Notes versus. Funny Notes versus will probably never appear on this channel again. We'll probably do like a spin-off, maybe. I don't know. I have no clue.
It's time to draw. I think
That's right.
you shuffle, I pick.
Okay, sure. Because I don't remember what we did then.
Give them a good shuffle. Separate them, whatever.
It's like, get 'em out. Come on, bastards. Let's just get moving around. There we go.
Please, I pray to the frogs that I get a specific one here. The Empty Man.
Hey, that's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, this is your pick.
This was my pick. Fairly underground movie. Flopped at the box office, but from what I've heard, it's a pretty interesting horror piece. And we haven't done a lot of horror because Alien was kind of horror, but it's something new for us. And I think this is the most modern movie we're going to do.
Yeah. 2020?
20,
Yes.
20, was it 2020 or 2021?
I think it was November 2020.
Very modern, very new.
We're getting with the times, ladies and gentlemen.
We
and
are.
We'll see you next week with Full of the Empty Man.
Can't stand the 90s forever.
Shut up.